day and welcome to the Sport Rep Show. I'm your host, Limba Mupetami. Today's show will have content in the hit list. This is practically everything to anything in the local sports. Sharpshooter, this looks at today's hot interview, and Game Changer, this is where we catch up with a sports star or a federation and what they are up to. And then lastly, the globetrotting segment with Ari Hougaard, which looks at international news. Now, without wasting any time, let's start off with the hit list segment. The president of the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe, is scheduled to land in Namibia on Thursday, that is of course tomorrow, to address the state of football in the country. He will meet the newly appointed FIFA Normalisation Committee as well as the head of state, Hage Geingob. Now, FIFA Normalisation Committee's Bisey Uirab said this will be a great opportunity for them to sit with Motsepe. He also spoke about their role and if it will change football matters in the country. Have a listen to this.
We will meet with him and we will engage. We'll hopefully get some wisdom from him because he's somebody who was involved in the game of football for a very long time, both at the club level and now at the continental level. So we'll see him and we look forward to engaging with him during his presence in Namibia. And also, we'll also engage with various delegates who will come to the Kosovo Congress and also just tap some wisdom from the experts who have been in the game for a long time. So on that one. And then I must also mention here that we are exploring the opportunity to also allow or to facilitate rather the engagement of the Caf President with the media. So once we have the details sorted, that will be communicated to you in due course. What shall we do differently from the previous Normalisation Committee? It's a very difficult question. Firstly, we may not have the full insight of what the committee did. Of course, we've seen the results of what they have done. I think they've given their best. We have a mandate. And that mandate, we are committed to give it our best shot, to have it finalized by the time we leave the office. But what I would like to share with the people of Namibia is that there is no way under the sun that the Normalisation Committee will normalize things or the challenges in the football fraternity by ourselves. It is going to be a collective effort of everybody, ourselves as the committee, the administrative leadership here in this house, people in the regions, the media, the sponsors, the government, all of us must hold hands to work on this. That is why I was saying that managing the change process is not a very easy thing. It's not something that can be done single-handedly. It is something that requires collective effort, it requires collective commitment, it requires sacrifice, and it requires so many other things. It requires a change process in the way you do things, in the way you perceive things, in the way you act with yourself and towards others. So our mandate is to start that process, is to start building blocks, as I've said, but to get all of you to join us on that journey. If you don't join us, broadly you, meaning the people of Namibia, in their respective categories and roles, will not be successful. Therefore, we'll put the building blocks in place, but let us all be prepared to sacrifice, to give, and to to be part of this change process. That is really all I can say at this point. If you don't come to the party, we will not resolve this problem.
That, of course, is the Normalisation Committee's Uirab saying that they are ready to take on their role. Now, Christine Boma finally received the BBC Sport Personality Award over the weekend in Kenya. She was awarded last year but could not attend the event in the United Kingdom due to COVID-19 related travel restrictions. The sprinter expressed her happiness and shared photos with her trophy all over social media. If all goes according to plan, Namibia will be amongst the countries that stand to immensely benefit from a new major global rugby competition planned for 2026. Plans are afoot by World Rugby, the world's rugby governing body, to introduce a new and broader competition that will be divided into two divisions, with the first teams and second division consisting of teams from the northern and southern hemisphere. The proposed competition, according to reports, will be known as the Nations Championship and would be held biennially in even years to avoid clashing with the Rugby World Cup. The junior tennis players from more than 10 countries are currently competing in an International Tennis Federation G5 Under-18 tournament at the Central Tennis Courts in Olympia. The tournament has J5 ranking and with international ranking points on offer. Young players from as far as Sweden, France and Austria in Europe have turned up to compete. Most of the competitors, however, are from African countries including Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Swaziland, Madagascar, Angola and Egypt. Moving on. Now, of course, before we head into the sharpshooter segment of the show, which will focus on today's press conference, which took place at Football House in Windhoek. This, of course, let's take a break, and then we will then, when we return, just share a video of Bisey Uirab once again addressing the media in today's, rather the developments of football in the country. Now, as we head into the sharpshooter segment, just a highlight of what took place at today's press conference. Well, the Normalisation Committee's Bisey Uirab said that the Namibia Football Association owes about $23 million to creditors. This, of course, includes unpaid salaries of some of the footballers, which, of course, are the Brave Warriors as well as the Brave Gladiators, among some of the bills that are owed. Now, at the press conference, this is what he had to say. So please stay tuned for this.
Members, on my left, I have Dina Shitula, whom I'm sure is very much well known to especially the sport journalists. And then on my immediate right, I have my sister Afra Shimi Chase, who is also deputizing me on this assignment. And then on the extreme right, I have my other sister Esmeralda Kasharwa, who is also a member of this esteemed committee. Absent from this engagement due to other equally and very important engagement is our colleague William Mertens, who is also a very key member of this team that will be engaging with you over the next 12 months or so. When we were appointed, I think in day 2 or day 3, some of you started to bombard us with questions. Until last week, until this week, we engaged with some of you, Some of you will promise that we will get back to you. We probably didn't get back on time. Our apologies for that. It's not in our nature to ignore journalists. We want to work with journalists. We want to make sure that the stories are carried appropriately and correctly. But sometimes journalists are also in too much of a hurry to hear stories that are not fully cooked. And it is dangerous to share those stories when they are not fully cooked. That is why in the event we seemed like we ignored you. It was not purposeful, but it was really just to make sure that what we share with you is well thought through, it's factual, and that we can share that with our nation. So colleagues from the NFA management and staff, distinguished invited guests, members of our media, ladies and gentlemen, I want to greet you all this afternoon and welcome you to the NFA House. Let me start off by thanking you for accepting our invitation to this media conference that I'm sure has been long awaited. We would like to take the opportunity to update you on the work and the progress that we have made over the past 4 weeks or so. You are a very important stakeholders within the Namibia Football Fraternity, hence we would like to share the progress made during this short period that we have served in this capacity. All members of the FIFA Normalisation Committee that I've just introduced to you are deeply committed to executing the mandate that was given to us. And as a reminder to some of us who might have forgotten, our mandate is to run the daily affairs of the Namibia Football Association. 2, to restructure the NFA administration so that it becomes operationally efficient. Number 3 is to review the NFA statutes and electoral codes to ensure their compliance with the FIFA statute requirement and to ensure their adoption by the NFA Congress. Number 4 is to act as an electoral committee in order to organize and conduct elections of a new NFA Executive Committee based on the newly aligned NFA statutes and electoral codes. And finally, to ensure a proper financial handover to the new NFA Executive Committee that would have been elected by the end of our term of office. We all know that in order for one to plan as to where you want to go, one needs to know where you are coming from and where you are getting yourself into. Therefore, over the past 4 to 5 weeks, we held several engagements with the NFA staff and most notably with the management to understand the current situation of Namibia Football Association. By doing this, as well as with engagement with other stakeholders, we were able to ascertain the following. Firstly, we have learned that the NFA is in the red, financially that is, worth just over 23 million Namibian dollars, which has been accumulated mostly over the past 1.5 years. Secondly, we have also come to know, and as you probably have heard already, some of us were not actively involved in this game of football. Therefore, we came to know that the annual funds that are received from FIFA and Caf are primarily for running an NFA office, that is to pay for salaries and other monthly overheads. And this funding is unfortunately not sufficient to cover other things, and even not to cover the overheads of the association. Where the NFA meets certain criteria, we are also able to apply for additional funding from FIFA and UEFA to cover some specific projects that are agreed upon. The additional monies received from current sponsors cover only a fraction of national team expenses and specific competitions, for example, MTC sponsorship for the MTC NFA Cup, and of course others. We'll need to source additional funding from sponsors and government should we wish to continue to participate in international competitions. In addition, we require sponsorship for all our leagues and all activities from other departments. The organizational structure of NFA needs to be aligned with the activities of the association as well as the available funding. The NFA's current salary structure needs to be aligned, and there is a need to formalize national team and national technical team contracts, which includes their remuneration. And several policies and procedures need to be formulated and or implemented, and the statutes need to be reviewed and revised, also as per one of the specific mandates of this committee. In line with our mandate, we have started to address the governance, administration and financial challenges faced by NFA. It is worth noting that it is imperative to remain within the framework of established procedures, statutes and rules governing our football as we move forward, because governance is an important foundation on which we wish to leave the yet to be elected NFA Executive Committee with at the end of our term. Proper governance can only inspire confidence of the brand of football and win back the hearts and minds of all interested stakeholders of our beautiful game of football. Funding to run various programs for the NFA remains a challenge, and we are therefore in the process of engaging various stakeholders, including government through our line ministry, FIFA, Caf and local sponsors to address these financial challenges. We must, however, be mindful that to attract the confidence of these stakeholders, especially corporate Namibia, we must work tirelessly to restore the bad image that the game has suffered over the past years, and this will not change overnight and requires all of us, those officials in the game, yourself as the media and all other stakeholders, to join hands to restore the image for football in our country. This brand healing process starts with identifying our challenges. And some notable issues identified are the lack of proper governance structures, poor financial administration, and human development challenges. We remain committed to addressing these challenges during our tenure. We have confirmed the participation of the Brave Warriors in AFCON 2023 with CAF. However, we require funding to cover the costs associated with participation in all international competitions, including the AFCON 2023 competition. Thereafter, we would like to see our senior men's team competing in Chad and all national teams participating in COSAFA. It is worth noting, colleagues, that the NFA has serious financial constraints, and the NFA is currently sitting with a long list of creditors that need to be paid. As I've said, that number goes to about 20 billion as of now. We don't know if that's the final number, but as of now, we are sitting with 23 billion in the red. Now that we have been made aware of all our creditors, the committee will engage with all these creditors to ensure that stakeholder relationships are managed and the resolution of payment is done amicably and in the shortest possible time, obviously granted that we get the appropriate financing for that.
That is the Normalisation Committee's Bisey Uirab just sharing some of the state of affairs at the Namibia Football Association at the moment. And that wraps up Sharpshooter segment of the show. Up next is the Game Changer segment of the show, but let's go for a break before we delve into that segment.
Adam Tass is coming to Windhoek to help build a brighter future for education. Join us at the Sounds of Caring concert at Windhoek High School Vegkop on 20 and 21 May, where he will be performing with Von Arends and Rian Smith. Tickets cost $200 Namibian and are available via eticket.my.na. All proceeds go towards the African Child Development Trust.
Over the weekend, the Namibia Fencing Federation hosted its first competition of 2022, which is called the Namibian Open. Now, they invited some of the best fencers from Botswana to take part. It was their first time, it is rather the first time that the Fencing Federation invited other countries to take part in the competition, which now is one step closer to them just increasing the fencing level in Namibia for some of their participants. Dillon Strydom from the association said that the competition was a great experience for some of the fencers. Now just showing you some of the highlights of what took place over the weekend. Have a look at this. We now cross over to the globe-trotting segment of the show with Ari Hougat.
Good day everyone, it's time for international sport and looking first today at soccer news, and it's still the English Premier League that's a high priority. Very tight at the top and still a fight between Liverpool and Manchester City for who's going to win. Latest game was Liverpool that had a good result against Aston Villa. That was a away game for them. They beat them by 2-1. That means that it is the same points for Liverpool and Manchester City on 86 points they have, but Liverpool have played one game more. Next challenge for Manchester City is a midweek game against Wolverhampton, so that's also going to be a tough challenge. Lower down on the list, Chelsea is on 67 points, Arsenal on 66, and then Tottenham Hotspur on 62. So there's also a big fight for the top four. That's also quite lucrative for the Champions League for 2020, for the next year coming up. And a big game coming up for that battle for top four would be Thursday, and that is going to be Tottenham Hotspur playing Arsenal. So that will be a massive decider in who takes top four in the English Premier League. Now continuing to the Giro d'Italia, that is continuing with cycling news. It was a tough fourth stage in the Giro d'Italia, and the winner there was Lennart Kammer. He's from Germany, so he broke away with 13 other riders with about 20 kilometers to go, and that stage, the fourth stage, finished with a very high climb, a very difficult climb. But it was Kammer that came out winner in 4 hours, 32 minutes and 11 seconds to win the fourth stage. Second place, Jean Pedro Lopez of Spain, and then in third position it was Ryan Taramea. And general classifications at the moment, it is Jean Pedro Lopez that is leading. He's got a 39-second lead over Lennart Kammer in second place, and then it is Ryan Taramea in further 58 seconds behind the leader. The leader after the third stage, that was Mathieu van der Poel. He's one of the early favourites of the Netherlands. He had a very difficult day and he is 24 minutes behind the leaders. Now for some golf news, and it's still the breakaway, so-called breakaway invitational golf of Greg Norman that's in the news. And Greg Norman made an announcement that he said that he has secured another $2 billion that is for future tournaments to be held, and that is a big statement that he was made. He said that by the year 2024 he wants a Super League that will have 14 tournaments in a global series. So the first tournament in the current series will be on the 9th to the 11th of June. That will be in England at the St Albans golf course, and the total prize money there is $25 million. Still not many of the top ranked players, if any, have confirmed to this breakaway league, but there's been some players like Lee Westwood that have confirmed that they will play in this. Now to conclude today's sport news, let's go to some tennis news. It's a big tournament. It's the Italian Open. It's a men and women play there. It's a ATP WTA Thousands tournament, so all the best players in the world in action. Results or news from the men's draw is that the number 6 seed, that's Andrei Rublev, he lost. He fell to Filip Krajinošić of Serbia, and the score there was 6-2, 6-4, so the 6th seed is out of the tournament. Number 1 seed Novak Djokovic, he's still in the tournament. He beat Arjan Karatsev by 6-3 and 6-2, and also Casper Ruud, the number 3 seed, he's also through to the tournament. He beat Botic van de Zandschulp to go through to the next round. In the women's draw, there was also a big seed that fell away. That was Emma Raducanu. She's also the US Open champion. She lost to Bianca Andreesova. She's from Canada. And that score there was 6-2, and then it was 2-1 in the second set when Raducanu had to withdraw with an injury. Ons Jabeur, that won the Madrid Open the previous weekend. She's also in the next round. She beat Serena Christie by 6-love and 7-6. So that's the international sports news for now. Hope you have a great sporting day, and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
With that, we have come to the very end of today's edition of the Sport Rev Show. Join us again tomorrow for a fresh package where we will be zooming into the big game focus as well as the youth segment Spotify. Catch us tomorrow.